Good to see everybody. Good morning.
Morning.
As you guys can see, that it's my cause, my cleats week, and record number of players are participating as well as staff members this year, which is neat to see, along with leadership. So George is going to participate, Kevin, Ryan, and myself. And it's a really good opportunity for everyone to participate in My Cause, My Cleats. As you can see, for the second year in a row, My Cause, My Cleats is the Zacharias Sexual Abuse Center. My daughters and I got a chance to go to a fundraiser this summer toward the facility, so it was really good, and had a couple minutes to speak with some of the survivors there that have been through the program. Very impactful. The educational programs there and services they provide is second to none, and it's well needed, and we just really want to bring that to light because it's a subject that no one talks about, and I think it's important that we bring that to light here in the Chicagoland and support those people that are going through that. So very important to us. Justin Jones was Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee for us, as you guys saw, and does a wonderful job during the time when he's here and even when he's out of the building. He's obviously all year long he's been doing that. He does a really good job with BAM, Becoming a Man program, which is an inner city program for youth. And a lot of guys have participated in that BAM program. That was awesome. Then last Christmas and then this Christmas again, he's sponsoring a family during the Christmas time, really impact their lives. And a lot of guys do that as well. I know Lucas Patrick does that and leads that up as well. But just a great job leading by example for what we want to do with the community relations, in the building and outside in the Chicagoland. I really appreciate all the players for doing that. This is a time for giving. We're very fortunate, all of us sitting in this room, and this is a time of giving. We should give back to the people of need and to people that need support. And then really the health of the team. Lastly, the health of the team is good. It's credit to the performance staff, the training staff. I've done an outstanding job of getting these guys healthy, and we expect everybody back today. And we'll see where it goes. Again, we've got to move them around a little bit and get them practicing, but we certainly love where they are. With that, up to questions.
Had 8 takeaways in the last 2 games. Is that a product of the defense being where it needs to be? Is that a product of some turnover luck? Where does it come from? And because I know it can be so elusive at different parts of the season.
Yeah, that's a good question, and really it's about continuity. I think it's more about some of the pressure, that our front row is providing, with Tez and the rest of the group. And our guys are really understanding the coverages now, and then to be able to skies those coverages, mix them in there, and I think that's really just all-encompassing for that. Certainly there's some luck involved in it at times, the way the ball bounces, but again, hustling and attention to detail creates some of that luck too.
And you guys have had your hands on a couple other ones too, right? I mean, it could be more than 8. Have you had a run like this? When you were in Indy, I know your takeaway numbers were high. Mm-hmm. Did you have a run with 8 in 2 games there?
I don't recall. I'm sure it was close to that or more, but I just think that, you mentioned about had a couple more, should have had a couple more. Well, we really got to create those situations for those players. A lot of it's catch angle, creating the game-like conditions in the drill work. And we got to do a better job as coaches for the players to put them in position so they can make those plays. And so we'll work on that this week.
Catch angle?
Just the way the approach that particular positions coming into the ball when they make the interception. So there's patterns involved in a football game, and really any game, and so you have to replicate those patterns over and over again, and create those for the players in your drill work.
Coach, we've seen some situations around the league kind of devolve and players speaking out frustration. How have you kind of been able to stem that tide despite the fact that you guys haven't had the results that you were looking for coming out at the beginning of the season?
So you're referring to around the league?
Around the league, there's other situations. Guys, players, Jonathan Allen, Washington, for instance, speaking out about frustration. How have you kind of maybe held a lot of them together throughout the fact?
Yeah, I believe the number one issue in any football team is morale. And how you sustain morale is by having standards. You have standards of how you operate every single day, how you practice, and you hold guys to the standard. And eventually what they do is they hold themselves to the standard. And it doesn't matter if it's your starting quarterback or your number one pass rusher. If they're late to something, you fine them. And if they're not hustling on the practice field, you point it out. And that's what you do, and that's what morale is created. And it creates a culture that's visible to see on the practice field, visible to see in the game day, and it creates a standard and a morale that you have within the football team. And again, it's out of a place of winning, and it's out of a place of doing it the right way. And that's what we're about here.
Matt, as you guys have tried to build or rebuild over the last year and a half, what has frustrated you as far as it hasn't come along well enough or hasn't come along quickly enough? What aspects?
I don't know if I would use the word frustration. Obviously you have to have extreme patience during this time, and you got to see growth. And you have to see that in small increments at times. And you have to learn from every performance, and I think that's part of growing. And we've continued to do that as we've put this football team together. And that's all we're trying to do this week. Our focus is on the Lions. Our focus is on getting better. We obviously just came off a bye week, and the improvements by, like I said on Monday, about each position. It starts with your feet in the ground and works your way all the way up to the eyes. And we're going to focus on those fundamentals by position and also by unit.
Have you always been this patient? For you throughout your career, is this something that you had to work towards, like went from Dallas to Indy, or was that a challenge for you to?
I have 2 daughters, so yes, I have. Obviously when I was really young, I was very intense in my 20s. And my other former players could probably attest to that, into my middle 30s, and then became a defensive coordinator at 29 when I was at Missouri. So that's when I kind of learned patience, when I started to be in charge of a whole group at that time, young group. And they got better, and they played some good football at the end there, but that's kind of where I learned it.
Matt, to Jason's point though, when you're exercising patience in this rebuild, what aspect of the rebuild has been the most difficult to keep that patience with as you are trying to do things the right way?
Yeah, obviously you want the wins, right? The wins, that's the biggest frustration. When are you going to get the wins? You keep, do things right, keep doing things right, and then all of a sudden the wins will come. And that's what all my mentors, would tell me, or I visited with during this process. Just keep doing it right, and really focus on the fundamentals and the details of doing the job right, and hold guys to standards. Don't let that slip. And that's what we've tried to do. And again, I know it's been slow, and I know that the Chicago Bears fans as we do want more wins, and you can certainly see that momentum starting to change, and we're certainly optimistic for that.
When you talk about patience, it's especially interesting to me when it comes to the offense because you have never coached offense you've never been responsible for the offense prior to this position. How do you know, or where's the line for you between being patient with Luke and the offense coming together and having some urgency and saying this needs to improve, or this needs to go a different direction?
No, I think that's always there. The sense of urgency should always be there. When the execution is there, you want to keep doing that. And when it's not, you have to have a sense of urgency. I said it the other day. It's about, being optimistic, being positive, but also being real. And that's just not with the players. That's with the coaches too. And then what do we need to improve on? And you have to make that improvement. And that's part of being a coordinator. It's part of being a head coach. It's exactly what you do. You just point it out, then you practice it, then you implement those things in practice. So if it's thing X that you need to improve on, then you just put them in practice. You focus on that, and you set the situation up, just like I was talking about taking the ball away. It's the same thing. You set it up in practice, put them in the situation, and then you refine, adjust, and get better from that situation.
You're coming off a game where you had 4 field goals. What specifically do you want to see the offense get better at? Acknowledging that you had a pretty specific game plan to deal with that blitz, and it's not going to be like that this week. How do you need to be more successful in what way?
Yeah, part of that is a couple of things. In-game situations like sudden change. Sudden change comes around for offense when you get a big return into the positive side, either by takeaway or kicking game. Or you get an explosive play. That could also be a momentum thing too. It's not quite sudden change, but it's also momentum into the scoring zone. And then from there, you need to really do a good job of operating in that scoring zone. And some of that's converting on third downs. If we decide to go on fourth down, like we did last week on 4th and 10, it's converting there. And then it's maintaining that momentum through execution into the scoring zone and into the end zone. And that's what we have to focus on. And if it's third down, in that area, that's what we'll do. If it's the first down explosive play, that you're taking down the field, it could be that as well. But, there's a lot of ways to do it.
Coach, the Lions, they've given up significant points since week 7, the second most in the NFL. You guys had success in week 11 against them offensively. Coming off, like Pat just alluded to, a game where you didn't score a touchdown, what do you wanna see? What do you remember from that game? Replicate it, whether it was Justin on the ground?
Right.
Some talking points heading into this game.
Yeah, it's really about that. It's about how do we generate explosive plays. You score touchdowns by getting explosives, right? We all know that. But how do we do that in the running game? How do we create advantageous positions for our offense, through motions, through formationally, to create those advantages, those angles that we want to have so we can pop those runs. And then in the passing game, we're going to have to take some more shots down the field to be able to create those explosive plays. And, those things are there, and we just got to take advantage of those.
Expectations are
What do
really,
you mean specifically when you say that there's more there that we have to take advantage of in terms of the downfield passing game? You mentioned that last week also.
Yeah, I mean, every opponent creates, scenarios for you, right? So, and again, there's certain scenarios that each opponent, has that you can create those momentum plays for yourself. You do it formationally, you do it by down a distance, you do it through looks. And we certainly got to do a better job of that.
Coach, you're obviously 4-4 of your last 8 games. Most people would say you probably should have beat Detroit. You go back even further, perhaps you probably should have beat Denver, and you're looking at 6-3 of your last 9. When you hear that, do you view that as a positive and something to build on going forward, or do you view that as a negative and a slight indictment on where your record currently sits?
Yeah, I view it as a positive, but also being real that, hey, we could have capitalized on those victories as well. So it's both. Certainly want to be optimistic, but you also got to see where you are and where we can improve to go ahead and close those games out that we didn't get done. And that's every week in the NFL, right? It's 2-minute, 4-minute at the end. It happened in the Detroit game versus New Orleans at the end of that game, and it's going to happen around the league this week. So we got to continue to improve on that.
How do you help Justin with the fumbling issue? I mean, he's a smart player, he's attentive, he's serious about that. He was saying just in the Minnesota game, he was kind of imploring everyone else to value ball security at the end, and then he fumbles. How does that happen, and how do you help him with that?
Yeah, just coach off the tape. That's what you can do, and then, the one was, he was sliding up in the pocket, and, got the ball, good play by the defensive end. And the other one, he was in traffic, he was cutting off a Cole, and guy put his head on the ball, and then you got to be able to use your other hand, clasp it over top. And you just got to keep coaching it. He's aware of it. It's important to him, and he's practicing it, in drill work and in practice. And we just got to keep improving on that.
Matt, with the big plays in the passing game that you mentioned, you guys have missed a few times over the last month. Where's your patience at with both Luke and Justin with the offense's inability to consistently hit those explosives?
Yeah, I think they're coming. I really do. I know Justin throws a really good deep ball, and he's proven that. And we're excited about our opportunity this week.